Hello, my name is Jeff Jamilo, and today I'm going to talk about the laws of karma. Not to be confused with the universal laws, but the law of karma is a very interesting one. Definition, number one, the moral law of cause and effect governing the future. 2, destiny or fate. 3, what goes around comes around. Interesting. So, the first thing I see on this is the moral law of cause and effect. So essentially, cause and effect could also be negative. You know, when people do spell work and various things like that and kind of nudge the universe in the opposite direction, it's still cause and effect, but it's in the wrong direction. So, hence the reason it's moral, which means setting things right. And it does affect the future. So, that's good. I don't necessarily agree with the destiny or fate. Karma is the same as destiny or fate. Because to my knowledge, karma is education for the soul. It's kind of like a good direction, bad direction, true, false, yes, no. You can think of karma in that direction. It's pretty black and white in regard. But in regard to your soul. Think of it from the soul's training. So if you get positive karma, which is reinforcement that yes, you did the right thing, positive things happen to you. Negative karma, which everyone considers all the karma negative, but there's positive and negative. Negative karma is you're doing something bad, and it's basically telling your soul, don't do this. And over time, if you keep doing this, bad stuff happens. And hence the reason you get into the heaven and hell thing. From a spiritual side of the fence, what Christianity doesn't tell you is that you do reincarnate. So a fresh soul coming here has a lot to learn. It will trash things. It'll mess things up. It'll get its corrections. And what happens is when the physical body here dies on the planet Earth, you get judged. Your soul gets judged. How did you do? Well, if you did good, life is good. If you didn't do so good, you get your karma. And your karma is just more added baggage, so to speak, when you come back around. So you get to come back and learn lessons again. You get to forget everything and learn, get more hardship, so to speak. And you come back and you do it again and again. Eventually, your soul gets it all right and learns all the lessons. And when you learn the lessons, then you get to go to heaven. Now, there's this hell thing. Well, hell, if your soul is a little too belligerent, I guess, say, you go to hell. And depending on how belligerent your soul is and doesn't want to conform, there is something worse than hell. And that's the wood chipper. That's where your soul goes to be I guess you could say disassembled. And all its parts gets mixed with other people's other parts that didn't work. So that combination of soul doesn't happen again. So there is a death, a real death of your soul. Anyway, that has nothing to do with the law of karma. I just wanted to make sure that everyone knows that the law of karma actually does apply to your soul. The first law of karma is the law of creation. And essentially it says life doesn't happen by itself. We need to make it happen. Magically, things just don't pop together. From the spirit realm, you have a contract. Your soul has a contract. You're going to do X, Y, and Z, and you come down here and you do it. And if you don't do it, karma, you back around, do it again until you get it right. It's not like they're real complicated things either. Sometimes in life, people just have a contract that says, hey, you're supposed to give this person $20, when you're 40 years old. Oh, okay. That could be as simple as someone's contract. You pass it, yeah, you get blessings. You don't. Anyway, law of creation. Number 2, the law of humility. And that is one must accept something in order to change it. That works with, you name it. you pick any addiction, alcohol addiction, drug addiction. You have to accept that you're an addict before you can go forward. No different than in life. You're all human. Even though it's not really related to this particular law, from a humility perspective, we are all the same. If you look at the universal laws, the first law is the law of oneness. We're all the same. We just don't want to think of it that way. We like to think we're unique when we're not. Number 3, the law of growth. Where we change ourselves, our lives change also. What that means is as we change, things in our life change, our surroundings change, everything reacts to us. You're starting to do a little better, you get more knowledge in a topic, you start to, talk to different people now all of a sudden. It's all that is based on the law of growth. You're growing. It is my belief that either you're alive or you're dead. So your soul is either growing or it's not. If it's not growing, eventually the wood chipper is for you. Number 4, the law of responsibility. And that is we must take responsibility for our lives. I was child abused when I was a child. I'm pretty sure I was sexually abused when I was a child. My mother was an alcoholic. None of that has any bearing on this. I take responsibility for my actions. I don't drink now because I choose not to drink. I choose not to cheat on people. I choose not to do this. I choose not to do that. I choose this. Choice. Responsibility. I take responsibility. Things I did do, I did them. As much as things that happened to me made me a victim, I was never a victim. Technically, I have a contract in the ethers that says I was going to do this. I was going to get child abused. I was going to get alcoholed. And as I said, it's all in there. We just have to believe that. Number 5, the law of connection. And that is the past, present, and the future are all connected. And they are. When people come over and say, if I could change one thing in my past, I wouldn't want to change a thing. So if I didn't change a thing, I'd be right here where I am now. Where I am right here now. Any change to that changes everything. If I made a change and decided I want to keep drinking, well, I'd still be drinking and we'd have problems. So, as I said. Number 6, the law of focus. We can't think of 2 different things at the same time. So as much as you think you can multitask, you can't, law of focus. You can only focus on one thing. And that's actually a good thing, because the law of focus forces you to evaluate only one thing. So, it has all your attention. That's why a lot of our internal body systems are more or less automatic, so that our brain can focus like it's supposed to. Number 7, the law of giving and hospitality. And this states that our behavior should match our thoughts and our actions. None of this, no, do as I say, not as I do. Yes, our actions and thoughts should match. I particularly like this because mine do match. And I try not to deal with people who don't match, because I find them to be very unreliable people. And if I don't have to deal with them, I won't. It's a personal thing. So anyone who wants to get on my good side, you may want to start practicing what you preach. Number 8, the law of here and now, and that we cannot be present if we are looking backwards. This, oddly enough, affects a lot of people. People go and they'll think about their past, whether it be, I did this in high school. I was a high school track star, high school football player, whatever it may be. I did this in high school. Why are you thinking there? Unless you're in high school now, why are you thinking there? Move on. And that's what people forget, is they keep looking at the past. And a lot of victim mentality goes into this also, because if you're not a victim right now, why are you thinking you were a victim because you were a victim back years ago? You want that to define you? May not want to. But people, as I said, live in the here and now. You can only live in the here and now. There was a book out there about the now, the power of now. I read it a couple years ago. What's actually funny is animals generally live in the now. It's only humans that live in the past. And you're not supposed to think too much in the future either, because the Lord loves torching the future, especially when you got a plan. It'll make sure that it'll correct up. Because remember, you don't know what contracts you sign. Well, the Lord does. So you think that retirement's going to work all that well? You might lose all your money because that might have been part of the contract. So it's pretty funny when you start thinking about spiritual contracts, but some people believe in them, some people do not. But I do believe everyone comes down here for a purpose, for the contract, to learn something. The law of change, number 9. Law of change. History repeats itself until we learn from it and we change our path. So essentially, we keep repeating the same cycle over and over like a hamster on a wheel until you acknowledge that and actually make a change. And say, I don't want to do this anymore. In other words, you're going to continue to be an alcoholic as long as you think you got power over that alcohol. But if you say, no, I'm going to take it a different direction. I don't want to do that anymore. I'm done. That's all it takes, really. That a little bit of willpower. But yeah. The law of change. I said, in history, and even world events change. History repeats itself. You'll continue to get corrupt politicians. Why? Because you think they're not. Anyway. But the good news is life is changing. So, number 10, the law of patience and reward. The most valuable rewards require persistence. In other words, you don't just get a pat on the back for showing up. You don't get, a pot of gold for, showing up to the play. You got to participate in it. You got to work on it. You got to do your work. This, oddly enough, affects a lot of people, because a lot of people, for some reason, they get this idea they want to press the easy button and go from $0 to $1 million, and they do that, and they get this mentality of it's mine. I deserve it, for an arbitrary reason. But the reality is, those who have patience usually get rewarded. Whether it be in your skills, whether it be in life. Usually don't go your entire life being scattered. You eventually do kind of either win the lottery or something changes for you. Number 11, the law of significance and inspiration. And the rewards are the result of the energy and effort you put into it. So the more energy and effort you put into it, the more significant the event. The more significant the event, the more you inspire other people, when it keeps feeding itself back. So largely, you always get a lot of rewards. I like to think of this one as being very simple. Of when you take the high road in a situation, you usually get rewarded, and people forget that. So people take the easy way out, and it's like, I don't know about you, I don't think I've ever took the easy way out in anything. And that's good and it's bad. It means I learned a lot of things. And sometimes I get very upset with people because, despite my age, I know actually quite a bit in and out of computers. And people kind of, especially the young ones, come in and they kind of think they know things. Like, well, maybe you know something, maybe you don't. But I remember when computers were used before there was an internet. Yes, there was computers before the internet. And there was programmers before the internet too. And the funny part about that is we actually had to know things. You actually had to know how a computer worked. And that's what people have nowadays have forgotten. And it's making it worse is their fact you're jumping into AI. And it's like, okay, so you're not going to think at all anymore. So my particular, everyone, if you look at it from my generation and below, they at least had to know something. From a technical perspective, you had to know how the computer worked. You had to know basically how to read. You had to know, you couldn't just go over and copy someone else's stuff. You had to decipher how process-wise something would happen. So it was kind of unique to you in a way. So kind of your love went into this program that you worked for your company with. And that's why sometimes I kind of laugh and, you see movies about, people put their life work into it. Yeah, I know what that means. Now, not related to the laws of karma. However, I will reiterate again. If you are following your passion, usually there's money there. And the reason there's money there is because very few people go after their passion. That's why. A lot of people go over and do it for the paycheck. And what do they get? They get the same amount of satisfaction. None. In the end, usually don't get that. So, but those are the laws of karma. I thought I'd put those out there for everybody. I did universal laws, so I felt it important that I'd also do this one. I hope you enjoy it, and I do hope you look them over, because they're very beneficial once you understand them. Not as good as universal laws, but it's interesting because we think we know everything and we know nothing. I learned years ago, especially as a programmer, that the most knowledgeable person knows that they don't know a damn thing. I'll be the first one to tell you that. Like I tell employers, I'm not exactly 100% versed on what you want me to do. I go, but I'm pretty reliable that I will learn within a reasonable amount of time. Within a day or so, I pretty much will be up to speed of what you need for whatever that is. What's ironic is there's a lot of people out in the world who what's oddly funny is they'll lie to get the job and actually not learn what they pretty much should have learned, which seems kind of foolish, but people do what people do. But I said, I laugh at people like that because it's like, well, what would you expect the result to be? You didn't really learn anything. You didn't want to. So, I said, you'd be very surprised at how many people do that. Actually, I was married to one that did it all the time. She would sit there and she would love to tell her, she wanted to be in computers. So she would tell her people interviewing her that, well, my husband is a master software developer, master programmer, that's what she used to call it. And that implied basically that, well, if you hire me, you kind of get the master developer to help, master programmer to help. But they found she wasn't any good at all, like no knowledge whatsoever, and it didn't help. She would ask me, it's like, I got my own work to do. I would try to help her. I go, but when you don't want to know, you don't want to know. And there's a lot of people like that. I said, it's kind of scary that every now and again I come across one and it reminds me that they're still out there. It's like, oh, you got to be kidding me. And you'd be surprised how many people lie. It's one thing to fib on a resume, but it's another thing to fib and then, quickly learn it. Because, most jobs have, say, 90% of the skills you probably have, the 10% you don't. But if you can quickly learn the 10%, it wouldn't be all that bad. So you kind of will say, yeah, I can do that. But there's some people that can only do 10% of the job and have to lie about the 90. And those are people scare me. I don't know how you get through life, because if you're lying about that, But back to, unfortunately, some people like the love of money. Go figure. Anyway, it's about the law of karma. Just a note for y'all, just make sure that you follow your passions. Usually where your passions are, your heart goes. When your heart goes there, because you invest a lot of time and energy into it, we're back to the law of patience and reward and the law of significance and inspiration. You will inspire others and you'll be rewarded greatly for it. So, thank you and have a great day.